August 15th, 1977, 3:47 in the morning. A radio telescope in Ohio detected something that shouldn't exist, a signal so strong, so precisely tuned, that astronomer Jerry Ehman grabbed a pen and scribbled one word in the margin of the printout. Wow. That signal lasted exactly 72 seconds. Then it vanished, never repeated, never explained. For nearly 50 years, the WOW signal has been one of astronomy's greatest mysteries. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In July 2025, astronomers discovered an interstellar object called 3I/Atlas. Just another comet from beyond our solar system, right? Except when scientists traced its path backward through space, accounting for its velocity and trajectory, they found something nobody expected. In 1977, 3I/Atlas would have been positioned within 9 degrees of where the WOW signal originated. 9 degrees. That's the width of your fist held at arm's length against the sky. Think about that for a moment. An interstellar visitor that's currently exhibiting 7 different statistical impossibilities was in the right place at the right time to have broadcast the most famous unexplained radio signal in human history. Coincidence? Maybe. But let's look at what we actually know before jumping to any conclusions. The Big Ear radio telescope wasn't designed to find aliens. It was conducting a systematic survey of the sky, listening for anything unusual at specific radio frequencies that might indicate technological civilizations. The frequency it detected that night was 1420.4 megahertz. That number matters because it's the natural emission line of hydrogen, the most common element in the universe. Any civilization trying to say hello would logically broadcast at this frequency because every other civilization would be listening there. It's like choosing a meeting place. You don't pick a random street corner, you pick the most obvious landmark everyone knows about. The signal was narrow band, meaning it occupied a very specific frequency range. Natural astronomical phenomena tend to be broadband, spreading across many frequencies. Narrowband signals are typically artificial. The intensity climbed steadily as the telescope's beam swept across the source due to Earth's rotation. It peaked at the letter U, the highest value the system could print, then declined symmetrically. This matches exactly what you'd expect from a stationary source being scanned by a moving detector. After 72 seconds, the signal moved out of the telescope's field of view. That's how long it takes Earth's rotation to carry the beam past any fixed point in the sky. They searched for it again. For years, decades, the Big Ear telescope pointed at that same patch of sky hundreds of times. Other observatories joined the search. SETI projects around the world listened carefully. Nothing. The signal never came back. Now, there are natural explanations that have been proposed. Maybe it was a passing satellite that briefly reflected a terrestrial signal. Maybe it was a rare astronomical event, like a magnetar flare or something we don't fully understand yet. But here's what bothers scientists. If it was natural, we should have seen similar signals from other sources. If it was terrestrial interference, we should have been able to identify the source. Neither has happened. The WOW signal remains unexplained, filed away as one of those things we heard once and never understood, until 3I/Atlas showed up. 3I/Atlas was discovered on July 1st, 2025 by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, hence the name Atlas. The 3I designation means it's the third interstellar object ever detected passing through our solar system. At first, it looked like a typical comet, icy, dusty, developing a coma as it approached the sun, nothing special except for its interstellar origin. But then astronomers started analyzing its chemical composition using spectroscopy, the technique where you split light into its component wavelengths to identify what elements are present. In late August, the Very Large Telescope in Chile pointed its instruments at 3I/Atlas and found something that stopped scientists cold. Nickel, lots of nickel, rising exponentially as the object approached the sun. That's unusual, but not impossible. Nickel exists in comets. What made the strange was what they didn't find. Iron, almost no iron. In nature, nickel and iron are born together. When massive stars explode in supernovas, these elements are created in the same nuclear furnaces. They're found together in every meteorite, every asteroid, every comet ever analyzed. The ratio varies slightly depending on conditions, but they're always both present. 2I Borisov, the previous interstellar comet that passed through in 2019, showed normal nickel to iron ratios. Every solar system comet shows normal ratios. 3I Atlas has nickel without iron. The only place we see that signature on Earth is in industrial production. Refining nickel alloys for electronics or specialized materials requires removing iron contaminants. We do it deliberately because for certain applications, iron interferes with the properties we want. The scientists who published this data tried every natural explanation they could think of. Unusual chemical pathways, exotic minerals, different formation conditions. Every hypothesis ran into the same problem. The temperature is too low. At 3I Atlas's distance from the sun, the heat isn't sufficient to vaporize the refractory minerals that contain these metals under any known natural process. And it's not static. The nickel production increases as the object gets closer to the sun, following a power law. That means the closer it gets, the more dramatically the output increases, almost like something powering on. Now, before we go further, let's be clear about what we're not saying. This doesn't prove 3I Atlas is artificial. It proves the chemistry is weird and we don't have a good explanation yet. But when you stack this on top of the wow signal connection, things start to look less like coincidence. Here's where the statistics get uncomfortable. The solar system is basically flat. The planets orbit in a plane called the ecliptic. Random objects from interstellar space can arrive from any direction at any angle. The probability of an interstellar visitor's orbit aligning within 5 degrees of the ecliptic is roughly 0.2%, 1 in 500. 3I Atlas arrived aligned within 5 degrees. Not only that, it's moving retrograde, opposite to the direction planets orbit. This is actually the ideal trajectory if you wanted to survey multiple planets with minimum course corrections. You'd pass them all in sequence without needing much fuel to adjust your path. And speaking of planets, 3I Atlas is going to make close approaches to 3 of them during its flyby. Venus at 0.65 astronomical units, Mars at 0.19 AU, Jupiter at 0.36 AU. The probability of a random interstellar visitor arriving with timing that allows close approaches to 3 different planets is approximately 0.005%. 1 in 20,000. Astrophysicist Avi Loeb from Harvard calculated these numbers. He's careful to note that low probability doesn't mean impossible. Unlikely things happen. But when you stack multiple unlikely things together, you start wondering if maybe they're not random. Let me put it this way. Imagine flipping a coin and getting heads 20 times in a row. Possible? Yes. The laws of physics don't forbid it. But at some point, you'd start wondering if the coin is weighted. Now we're entering territory that makes a lot of scientists uncomfortable. Remote viewing, the practice of attempting to perceive information about distant or unseen targets using extrasensory perception. Is it real? Is it reliable? The scientific community is divided. The CIA studied it for years during the Cold War. Some experiments showed results above chance, others didn't. It remains controversial. But here's what happened with 3I Atlas, and you can decide what to make of it. In August 2025, 2 months before the object's closest approach to Mars, a professional remote viewer named Bertie Jaworski was given a set of coordinates by a friend. Just numbers, no context, no photographs, no information about what she was supposed to be viewing. This is how legitimate remote viewing protocols work. The target remains completely blind to prevent any conscious or unconscious bias. Bertie entered her protocol and began describing what she perceived. At first, it was exactly what you'd expect if someone asked you to remote view a comet. Something moving through space, old, icy, rocky, natural. But then she noticed something unusual, something that wasn't completely natural, something that felt deliberately placed. She kept going deeper, and that's when she perceived what she described as a thumb drive-sized piece of technology. Not on the surface, inside, Someone had bored into this rock and placed something there, her exact words. It's kind of like an archive, a message in a bottle, but it's not just a message, it's technology of some sort. She continued, "This thing is so old. And even though the object itself is like billions of years old, the thing that was placed inside of it is also very old." Only after the session did her friend reveal what she'd been viewing. 3-Eye Atlas. Now Birdie did 2 more sessions going deeper. And in those follow-up sessions, she reported something that directly connects to the wow signal. It's also broadcasting. These messages come out in pulses. Broadcasting, present tense, not was broadcasting billions of years ago, is broadcasting now. When the podcast host mentioned that Avi Loeb had published calculations showing 3-Eye Atlas arrived from the same region of the sky as the wow signal, Birdie didn't hesitate. That's super interesting. It's very possible that that is the wow signal. Multiple other remote viewing groups, working independently with no contact with each other, targeted 3-Eye Atlas in the following months. The specifics varied, but certain themes appeared again and again. Technology, deliberate placement, broadcasting, non-human intelligence. One group reported perceiving humanoid forms associated with the object. Another described what they called graffiti or signatures, as if someone had signed it. Several viewers reported the sensation of the object being masked, deliberately avoiding full detection. One detailed report mentioned special access and extraction points. These weren't vague mystical impressions, they were specific technical details. Does any of this prove 3-Eye Atlas is sending signals? Of course not. Remote viewing isn't hard science. It can't be easily replicated or verified. These are subjective impressions filtered through human consciousness. But they're remarkably consistent across multiple independent viewers, and they align in eerie ways with the physical anomalies that telescopes were detecting. If there actually was a thumb drive-sized device inside an ancient comet, deliberately placed billions of years ago, what would we expect to see? We'd expect it to look like a comet from a distance. Ice, dust, outgassing, all the normal signatures. But up close, we might notice things that don't quite fit. Unusual chemistry, unexpected materials, behaviors that seem designed rather than random. We'd expect it to be massive, far more massive than its visible size suggests, because there'd be something dense at its core, something that doesn't sublimate away, and we'd expect it to be transmitting, not loudly, not obviously, but if you knew where to look, if you had the right instruments pointed in the right direction at the right time, you might detect something, a pulse, a pattern, a signal that shouldn't be there. Birdie Jaworski perceived all of this in August, before most of the scientific data was published. Let's talk about what it would take to produce the wow signal from 3-Eye Atlas's position in 1977. The object would have been roughly 600 astronomical units from Earth. That's 600 times the distance from Earth to the Sun, about 90 billion kilometers. The wow signal was strong, 30 times louder than background noise. To produce that intensity at that distance would require a transmitter outputting between 0.5 gigawatt and 2 gigawatts of power. That's not a battery. That's not a small generator. That's a nuclear reactor. Sustained output, focused into a narrow beam across 90 billion kilometers of space. Could a comet do that? Not with any physics we understand. Comets don't generate gigawatts of power. They don't emit coherent radio signals. They don't broadcast at the exact frequency that happens to be the universal marker for technological civilizations. But an object designed to be found, an object that needed to announce itself before entering the inner solar system, that would broadcast exactly this way. One strong pulse. Unmistakable, impossible to ignore. Then silence, because you wouldn't want to give away your position constantly. You'd send one signal, enough to be noticed, then go quiet until you were ready. Now skeptics would point out that we've never detected any transmission from 3-Eye Atlas since its discovery in July 2025. Radio telescopes have been pointed at it multiple times, nothing. But think about the timing. The WOW signal happened in 1977 when the object was still in the outer solar system, cold and dormant. If it was designed to broadcast once to announce its arrival, mission accomplished. Now it's in the inner solar system, heating up as it approaches the sun. If there's technology inside, it would be activating, preparing for whatever its actual purpose is. Broadcasting might not be part of that phase. Or maybe it is broadcasting, just not at frequencies or times when we're listening. The Big Ear telescope that detected the WOW signal was torn down in 1998 to make room for a golf course. Yes, you read that right. One of the most sensitive radio telescopes ever built. The only instrument to detect what might be an alien signal was demolished for a golf course. We don't have that level of sensitivity pointed at 3i Atlas now. We have different instruments with different capabilities looking at different frequencies. If the object is transmitting at the same frequency as the WOW signal, 1420.4 megahertz, and if it's doing so in pulses rather than continuously, we could easily miss it. October 3rd, 2025 should have been historic. 3i Atlas made its closest approach to Mars, coming within 29 million kilometers. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter was positioned perfectly. Its high-resolution imaging camera can resolve features smaller than a car on the Martian surface. Pointed at 3i Atlas, it should have been able to capture unprecedented detail. The European Space Agency's Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter were also watching. Instruments trained on the exact location, multiple spacecraft, multiple angles. The best opportunity ever to image an interstellar visitor up close. And then, at that exact moment, NASA furloughed 15,000 employees. 83% of the agency went home due to a government shutdown. The official explanation was straightforward: budget impasse. Nothing to do with 3i Atlas, just unfortunate timing. But think about the odds. The object was discovered in July. The Mars flyby was known months in advance. Scientists knew this was their only chance before it disappeared behind the sun. And in the final week before closest approach, the United States government shut down. Raw image feeds from Perseverance rover kept uploading. The spacecraft didn't stop working, the cameras were active, data was being collected. It just wasn't being released to the public. An amateur astronomer named Simeon Schmaus stacked 20 images from Perseverance's cameras and found what he described as a faint smudge of light where 3i Atlas should be. A faint smudge. That's what we got from humanity's closest look at an interstellar visitor, from spacecraft that can resolve features smaller than a car. No official images from NASA. No official images from ESA. No images from China's Tianwen-1 mission or the UAE's Hope orbiter, all of which we're watching. The European Space Agency released a dry statement confirming that observations occurred. Data was collected. Results would be published when ready, but no images, no preliminary findings, no excitement. Compare this to 2I Borisov in 2019. When that interstellar comet passed through, images flooded out immediately. Scientists were excited. Press releases flew. It was treated exactly as you'd expect. The difference? 2I Borisov behaved exactly like a comet. Normal chemistry, normal tail, normal outgassing. 3I Atlas has impossible chemistry, a backwards tail, 7 statistical anomalies, and we're getting silence. Right now, as you listen to this, 3I Atlas is somewhere we cannot see, hidden behind the sun, moving toward perihelion, its closest approach to our star. That moment arrives on October 29th, 2025. Perihelion isn't just about proximity, it's about heat. Sunlight pounding the surface with gigawatts of power. For an object coming in from the cold darkness of interstellar space, it's an overwhelming presence. Avi Loeb made an observation that a lot of people found chilling. High-stress environments elicit confessions. He was making an analogy to interrogation, but the principle applies to physics too. When you heat ice, it can't pretend to be anything other than ice. When you heat rock, it behaves like rock. And when you heat something that's pretending to be a comet but might be something else, the mask comes off. There are 2 scenarios for what could happen. Scenario 1, 3. Atlas is exactly what it appears to be: a comet, an unusually massive, chemically strange, statistically improbable comet, but natural nonetheless. In this scenario, October 29th marks spectacular activity. The surface temperature rises, volatiles sublimate, carbon dioxide and water ice turn to vapor. Dust lifts off in enormous plumes. We should see brightness increasing by factors of 10 or more. The development of a proper tail, maybe fragmentation if the object is loosely bound. It would be extraordinary, an unprecedented look at an interstellar comet's internal structure. But then there's scenario 2. 3. Atlas is not natural. The anomalies mean something. The nickel without iron, the backwards tail, the perfect alignment with the ecliptic and the wow signal origin. In this scenario, perihelion isn't a stress test, it's a charging station. Think about what you'd do if you were sending a probe to another star system. You'd need it to survive billions of years in the cold. Wrapping it in ice makes sense. Ice is common, it's protective, it makes the probe look natural. But once it reaches the inner solar system, once it approaches the host star, it needs to wake up. It needs power, and there's only one power source available: the star itself. Loeb laid out the possibilities in his papers. The object could use a solar gravity assist maneuver. This is a real technique our own spacecraft use. You dive close to the sun, use its gravity to accelerate and change trajectory dramatically with minimal fuel. The optimal point for this maneuver is at perihelion, and 3 Atlas reaches perihelion while completely obscured from Earth-based observation. If it wanted to change course without being detected, this would be the moment, or it could release something. Mini probes, small craft that detach and use the retrograde trajectory to intercept planets. From this position, Mars, Earth, Jupiter are all reachable with minimal course corrections. We won't know. Not yet, because between now and early December, we're blind. The European Space Agency has a plan. Between November 2nd and 25th, the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer spacecraft, currently in transit to Jupiter, will turn its instruments toward 3 Atlas. JUICE will catch the object just after perihelion, when it should be at peak activity, when whatever is going to happen has already happened. If the object develops a massive coma and tail, JUICE will see it. If it fragments, JUICE will document it. And if it does something unexpected, JUICE will record that too. December 19th, 2025. Mark that date. 3 Atlas will make its closest approach to Earth, 1.8 astronomical units away, still about 270 million kilometers, no threat, but close enough that every major observatory will be watching. The trajectory will tell us everything we need to know. If the orbit matches pure gravitational predictions, accounting for expected outgassing, then we can reasonably conclude nothing unusual happened behind the sun. It passed perihelion, survived, and continued on its path. But if the numbers are off, if the trajectory shows changes that cannot be explained by known forces, then every assumption we've made needs revision. Objects don't just change course on their own, something has to push them. The Vera Rubin Observatory will play a crucial role. This telescope only recently became operational, and it represents a revolution in sky surveys. Previous systems found about 20,000 new asteroids per year. Rubin found over 2,000 asteroids in its first 10 hours. When Rubin focuses on searching for interstellar objects, we could be detecting dozens per year instead of one every few years. And each one will be studied with the lessons learned from 3 Atlas fresh in our minds. If 3 Atlas is truly anomalous, we'll have other objects to compare it against. If it's the first of a new category, Rubin will find its siblings. But December isn't just about future surveys, it's about questions that have been building since July. What did the Mars orbiters actually see? By December, the government shutdown will be long over. The high-resolution images from October 3rd will have been processed and analyzed. Those images, taken when 3 Atlas was just 29 million kilometers away, should resolve features on the nucleus if the coma wasn't too dense. Is it round, elongated, irregular? Are there variations in brightness, suggesting different surface materials? The fact that these images haven't been released raises questions that won't disappear just because the calendar turns to December. Scientific data is usually published as quickly as possible. The competition to be first is fierce. Multiple space agencies observe 3I Atlas at Mars. None have released detailed imagery. Either the images confirm it's just an unusual comet, or the absence of images becomes its own answer. Radio astronomers have been quietly watching. If 3I Atlas was the source of the WOW signal in 1977, and if it's still capable of transmitting, December provides another opportunity. Multiple radio telescopes have been monitoring the region where the object should be, not with the fanfare of SETI's usual campaigns, but with steady, patient observation. The hydrogen line at 1420.4 megahertz. That's the frequency to watch. That's where the WOW signal appeared. If 3I Atlas has something to say, that's where it will say it. Any signal, any pulse, any pattern in the radio frequencies that correlates with the object's position would be revolutionary. But here's the challenge. The WOW signal lasted 72 seconds. If 3I Atlas is broadcasting in similar pulses, you have to be listening at exactly the right time. Imagine trying to have a conversation with someone who only speaks for 1 minute out of every year. You could point a radio telescope at them constantly and still miss it if your timing is off. That's why continuous monitoring is so important, and why the loss of the big ear telescope still hurts. We don't have the same sensitivity we had in 1977. We have different instruments with different strengths and weaknesses. If a signal comes, we might catch it, or we might miss it by minutes and never know how close we were. Not everyone thinks 3I Atlas is anything other than a comet. Most astronomers, if pressed, would say the anomalies are interesting but not conclusive. They'd point out that unusual doesn't mean artificial. The nickel without iron? Maybe there's a natural explanation we haven't thought of yet. Comets are complex, we're still learning. The backwards tail? Avi Loeb and his colleague published a paper showing how it could happen with the right configuration of ice fragments ejecting from the sun-facing side. The trajectory alignment? Statistics can be misleading. Low probability events happen all the time. We just notice them more when they align with our suspicions. The WOW signal connection? Interesting coincidence, but the calculations involve uncertainties. 9 degrees is close, but it's not exact. These are fair points. Science demands skepticism. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And right now, we don't have extraordinary evidence. We have a collection of anomalies that could each be explained individually, even if the explanations are a bit forced. But here's what bothers even the skeptics. All 7 anomalies occurring in the same object. That's where the statistics start to look uncomfortable. Each explanation works if you're willing to accept that 3I Atlas is uniquely configured in ways no other comet has ever been. The mass can be explained if it's uncommonly dense. The trajectory can be explained if a statistical fluke happened. The chemistry can be explained if exotic processes are occurring. But they're not in isolation. They stack. At what point does the simplest explanation stop being natural but unusual and start being designed? That's the question no one can answer yet. Because we need more data, and the data we need is hidden behind bureaucratic silence and cosmic geometry. There's a pattern in how information about 3I Atlas has been handled. Amateur astronomers are sharing their observations openly. Scientists publishing papers are being careful but transparent about what they found. But official space agencies, the ones with the best instruments and the clearest views, have gone quiet. NASA's shutdown during the Mars flyby could genuinely be coincidental. Government shutdowns happen. Timing is sometimes just bad luck. But the silence from other agencies is harder to explain. ESA isn't bound by US budget politics. Neither is China's space agency or the UAE's. They all observed. They all collected data. None have released images. Representative Tim Burchett, member of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, appeared on news programs to discuss 3I Atlas and the suspicious silence around it. A sitting congressman on national television talking about an interstellar visitor and the lack of transparency. That should tell you something. When elected officials start asking questions publicly, it means they're not getting satisfactory answers privately. The public has a right to see what was observed. These are publicly funded missions. The data belongs to humanity, not to administrators who can choose when and what to release. If the images show a normal comet, why not release them immediately and put the speculation to rest? If they show something unusual, we deserve to know. This isn't a matter of national security, it's an object passing through our solar system. Its trajectory is public. Its properties are being studied by universities worldwide. What could possibly justify withholding images from the closest observation ever made of an interstellar visitor? The silence breeds speculation, and when official channels won't provide information, people look elsewhere, to remote viewers, to conspiracy theories, to wild guesses that might be completely wrong but at least attempt to fill the vacuum. That's not healthy. That's not how science should work. Transparency builds trust. Silence destroys it. Step back for a moment and look at what's happening from a wider view. We live in a solar system where, until recently, we thought we were alone. No other stars visible as more than points of light. No way to know if planets even existed around those distant suns. In the last 30 years, that's changed. We've discovered thousands of exoplanets. We know planetary systems are common. We've found planets in the habitable zones of their stars where liquid water could exist. The next logical question is, are any of them inhabited? We've been listening for radio signals since the 1960s, thousands of hours of telescope time devoted to SETI. We've heard nothing conclusive. The WOW signal is the closest we've come to a possible detection. And now an object from interstellar space arrives exhibiting behaviors we can't fully explain, originating from the same region of sky where that signal came from. If you were a civilization trying to make contact, how would you do it? Broadcasting constantly wastes energy. Sending electromagnetic signals into the void, hoping someone is listening at the right moment, is inefficient. But sending a physical probe, something that can travel for billions of years and activate when it reaches its destination, that's a message that doesn't depend on anyone being tuned to the right frequency at the right time. You wrap it in ice so it looks natural during its approach. You give it a trajectory that allows close passes of multiple planets. You have it broadcast once from a distance to announce its arrival. Then you let it proceed into the inner system where the real work begins. Is that what 3-Eye Atlas is? We don't know. We genuinely don't know. But the possibility is real enough that it deserves serious investigation, not dismissal, not ridicule. Serious, rigorous, transparent scientific study. There's a reason people are drawn to ancient astronaut theories. The idea that extraterrestrials visited Earth in the distant past and influenced human development. Most of these theories are built on misinterpretations of ancient texts, architectural coincidences, and a fundamental underestimation of what human beings can accomplish without help. But underneath the pseudoscience is a legitimate question. If technological civilizations are common in the galaxy, and if they've been around longer than us, why wouldn't they explore? We've sent probes to every planet in our solar system. We've sent Voyager 1 and 2 beyond the heliopause into interstellar space. We've put golden records on those probes, time capsules designed to survive for billions of years. If we can do that with 1970s technology, what could a civilization 1,000 years more advanced accomplish? Interstellar probes make sense. They're patient. They don't require living crew. They can wait out journeys that take hundreds of thousands of years. You wouldn't send them randomly. You'd target solar systems that show signs of planets. You'd aim for the ones in habitable zones. Our solar system has been obviously inhabited for at least 2 billion years. Oxygen in the atmosphere is a dead giveaway that photosynthetic life exists. Any spectroscopic analysis from nearby star systems would have detected that. So if you're exploring the galaxy, our solar system would be on the list of places to visit. The question isn't whether it's possible. The question is whether it's happened. And if 3-Eye Atlas is an example, what does that mean for humanity? December 20th through 30th will be the observation window when 3-Eye Atlas is best positioned for study after emerging from behind the sun. Astronomers around the world are preparing. Observing time has been allocated at major observatories. Instruments are being calibrated, amateur astronomers are coordinating too. Thousands of telescopes will point at the same patch of sky, collecting data that can be shared and analyzed. This is citizen science at its best. You don't need a PhD to contribute. You need a telescope, clear skies, and the willingness to carefully record what you see. If 3I Atlas has changed course, thousands of independent observations will confirm it. If it's exactly where it should be, those same observations will put the speculation to rest. Radio telescopes will be listening, not just at the hydrogen line, but across a range of frequencies. If there's a signal, someone will catch it. And if nothing unusual happens, if the object behaves exactly like a normal comet, that will be valuable information too. It will mean the anomalies we've observed have natural explanations we just haven't figured out yet. Either way, we'll know more in December than we know now. Let's play this out. Suppose 3I Atlas really is an interstellar probe. Suppose it's been broadcasting signals and the WOW signal was its way of announcing arrival. What happens next? First, confirmation. If the December observations show trajectory changes or radio emissions, the scientific community will mobilize. Papers will be published, data will be shared, telescopes around the world will focus on this object. The confirmation process will take time. Months, probably. Science doesn't move fast. Every claim will be challenged, every alternative explanation explored. But if the evidence holds up, if multiple independent teams reach the same conclusion, then at some point the consensus will shift. We are not alone. We have been visited. The implications are staggering, not just scientifically, but philosophically, religiously, politically. Every human culture would have to grapple with the knowledge that someone else is out there, that we're not unique, that intelligence has arisen elsewhere and reached a level where interstellar travel is possible. Financial markets might crash, as Avi Loeb suggested, not because of immediate danger, but because of uncertainty. How do you value assets in a world where everything you thought you knew just changed? Governments would have to respond. The United Nations has protocols for contact scenarios, but they've never been tested in reality. Religious institutions would need to reconcile their teachings with the existence of non-human intelligence. Some faiths would adapt easily, others would face theological crises. And then there's the question of intent. Why send a probe? What is it here to do? If it's purely observational, gathering data about our solar system and our planet, that's relatively benign. We do the same thing with our probes. But if it's doing something else, if it's meant to interact or intervene, that raises questions we're not prepared to answer. Now suppose the opposite. December arrives. 3I Atlas is exactly where it should be. No trajectory changes, no radio signals. All the anomalies turn out to have boring natural explanations. That would be disappointing to some people, vindicating to others, but it wouldn't be the end of the story. Because even if 3I Atlas is just a comet, the questions it raised are still valid. Why is its chemistry so unusual? That's a legitimate scientific puzzle worth solving. How common are interstellar objects? The Vera Rubin Observatory will answer that in the coming years. Should we be prepared for the possibility of artificial objects entering our solar system? Yes, even if this one isn't, someday there might be one that is. The speculation around 3I Atlas has been intense. Some of it has been irresponsible. Wild claims with no evidence, panic for the sake of clicks. But some of it has been thoughtful. People asking reasonable questions about an object that doesn't fit our expectations. That's how science progresses. You notice something weird, you ask why, you look for answers. Sometimes the answers are mundane, sometimes they're revolutionary. Either way, you learn something. Regardless of what 3I Atlas turns out to be, how we handle this situation matters. This is the first time humanity has collectively grappled with an interstellar object exhibiting unexplained characteristics. It won't be the last. The Vera Rubin Observatory is about to flood us with detections. Within a few years, we could be tracking dozens of interstellar visitors simultaneously. Some will be ordinary, some might not be. We need protocols, not government secrecy and selective information release. Open, transparent scientific investigation. When anomalies are detected, they should be shared immediately with the global research community. When observations are made by publicly funded missions, the data should be public. The current approach, withholding Mars orbiter images for months while speculation runs wild, is the worst possible strategy. It erodes trust, it feeds conspiracy theories, it prevents the crowdsourced analysis that often leads to breakthroughs. Science works best when it's collaborative and transparent. When thousands of eyes are looking at the same data, someone will spot the pattern others missed. We also need to separate signal from noise in public discourse. Social media amplifies everything equally. Serious scientific analysis gets the same weight as wild speculation. People need to understand the difference between "we detected something unusual" and "aliens confirmed." Between "this doesn't fit our models" and "this must be artificial." Anomalies are interesting, they're worth investigating. But they're not proof of anything until you've exhausted every natural explanation and the evidence still points one direction. 3. iAtlas has anomalies, real, measurable, published in peer-reviewed journals. But we haven't exhausted the natural explanations yet. We're still working through them. That's where we are. Not at proof, at investigation. We've done exactly what we're imagining others might have done. In 1977, the same year as the WOW signal, NASA launched Voyager 1 and 2. Each carries a golden record, a 12-inch gold-plated copper disc containing sounds and images from Earth, music, greetings in 55 languages, natural sounds like thunder and bird calls, images of humans, animals, landscapes, mathematical definitions. The records are designed to last billions of years in the vacuum of space. They're protected by aluminum covers with instructions for playback etched on the surface using universal symbols. Carl Sagan led the team that created these time capsules. He understood that the odds of anyone finding them are astronomically small. Space is vast, the probes are tiny, but the gesture matters. We sent a message. We said, "We exist, we thought, we created." We wondered if anyone else was out there. Voyager 1 is now over 23 billion kilometers from Earth, in interstellar space. Voyager 2 isn't far behind. They'll drift through the galaxy long after human civilization has ended, whatever form that end takes. If they encounter another civilization millions of years from now, those golden records will be all that remains of us. Now flip the perspective. If we're doing this with 1970s technology, what would a civilization even 100 years more advanced do? They'd send better probes, faster, more durable, capable of active observation, not just passive data collection. And if they wanted those probes to go unnoticed until the right moment, wrapping them in ice would be clever. Make them look like comets, natural objects that no one would question until they started exhibiting behaviors that don't quite fit. We are staring at the possibility that someone did to us what we did to them. Sent a probe, included a message, waited for it to arrive. The symmetry is almost poetic. Let's return to Bertie Jaworski's remote viewing session for a moment, because whether you believe in remote viewing or not, some of what she described aligns eerily well with what we're now observing. She described something small, about the size of a thumb drive, deliberately placed inside the object. If there's technology aboard 3 iAtlas, it wouldn't be massive, it would be compact, efficient, designed to survive billions of years with minimal power requirements. A thumb drive-sized device could contain enormous amounts of data. It could house sensors, a transmitter, even a simple AI programmed to activate under specific conditions. She said it was broadcasting in pulses, not continuously. Pulses. That matches the WOW signal, 72 seconds, then nothing. A pulse. If 3 iAtlas is transmitting, it might be doing so intermittently. Short bursts, easy to miss if you're not listening at the right time. She said the object is billions of years old, and the technology inside is also very, very old. That tracks with the interstellar journey time. To travel from another star system, even a relatively close one, would take hundreds of thousands or millions of years at sub-light speeds. Whatever is inside would have to be built to last unimaginable stretches of time. She described it as an archive, a message in a bottle, That's exactly what the Voyager golden records are. Archives, messages, not expecting a reply, just saying, "We were here." Now, does this mean remote viewing is scientifically validated? No. One accurate session, even a remarkably accurate one, doesn't prove the method works reliably, but it's interesting. And when multiple independent remote viewers report similar themes, technology, broadcasting, deliberate placement, it becomes harder to dismiss entirely. Maybe they're picking up on something real. Maybe they're picking up on collective unconscious speculation. Maybe it's coincidence. But it's worth noting that remote viewers were describing broadcast technology inside 3I Atlas, before scientists detected the nickel without iron. Before anyone calculated the WOW signal trajectory alignment, they saw something. Whether that something is real or imagined, we'll find out in December. One detail that hasn't gotten much attention. China has been completely silent about 3I Atlas. Their Tianwen-1 mission has been operating at Mars since 2021. The orbiter is still active, equipped with high-resolution cameras and other instruments. It was in position to observe 3I Atlas during the October 3rd flyby. Same as NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. Same as ESA's spacecraft. But while NASA and ESA at least acknowledge they observed the object, China has said nothing. No press releases, no papers, no images. This is unusual. China typically celebrates its space achievements. When Tianwen-1 arrived at Mars, they released images and data promptly. When their Zhurong rover landed, they shared video. For an event as significant as the closest observation ever of an interstellar visitor, you'd expect something. The silence suggests either they didn't observe it, which seems unlikely given the opportunity, or they observed something they're not ready to discuss publicly. Maybe they saw the same thing everyone else saw and decided to follow NASA's lead in withholding images. Coordinated silence across multiple space agencies would be unprecedented but not impossible. Or maybe they saw something different, something that made them decide immediate silence was the better option. We won't know until someone speaks, and if everyone stays quiet, we're left with speculation and amateur observations. That's not how this should work. Space exploration is supposed to be for the benefit of all humanity. Discoveries should be shared. Data should be public. When multiple nations with the capability to observe something extraordinary all choose silence simultaneously, it raises questions that don't have comfortable answers. When 3I Atlas emerges from behind the sun, there are three broad categories of outcomes. Possibility 1, it's exactly where it should be. Trajectory unchanged except for expected variations from outgassing. Chemistry explained by exotic but natural processes. No radio signals detected. The anomalies turn out to be the universe being weird, not artificial. This is the most likely outcome. Most anomalies in astronomy have natural explanations once we understand the physics better. If this happens, 3I Atlas becomes a fascinating case study in interstellar comet behavior. We learn something about how objects from other star systems differ from our own. Scientific papers get published, interest fades. Possibility 2, anomalies intensify but remain ambiguous. The trajectory shows small deviations that could be explained by asymmetric outgassing, but could also be something else. Radio telescopes detect faint signals that might be technological or might be natural. The chemistry gets even weirder. This is the frustrating outcome. More questions, no clear answers. Years of debate among scientists, continued speculation online, no consensus. In this scenario, we'd need follow-up missions, send a spacecraft to intercept 3I Atlas as it leaves the solar system, study it up close, maybe even attempt to land on it or collect samples. That would take years to plan and execute. By the time we're ready, the object might be too far away to reach with current propulsion technology. Possibility 3, unambiguous evidence of artificial origin. Trajectory changes that cannot be explained by natural forces. Clear, repeated radio signals matching technological patterns. Maybe even visual observations of structure inconsistent with a comet nucleus. This is the outcome that changes everything. This is first contact, even if it's one-way communication with a probe. If this happens, every government on Earth will have to respond. The United Nations will convene, scientists will mobilize, the media will explode, and we'll have to grapple with questions we've avoided for centuries. Are we alone? Not anymore. What do they want? We'll have to figure that out. What do we do next? Nobody knows. The wow signal isn't just a curiosity, it represents something profound about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. For decades, SETI has been listening, thousands of hours of telescope time, millions of radio channels scanned, stars surveyed, exoplanets targeted, and we've heard nothing conclusive. The universe seems quiet, the great silence as it's called. There are explanations for this. Maybe technological civilizations are rare. Maybe they don't use radio. Maybe they do, but we're listening at the wrong frequencies or the wrong times. Or maybe we heard one once and we didn't know what to do with it. The wow signal was perfect. Right frequency, right characteristics, strong enough to be unmistakable, but it never repeated, so we couldn't confirm it. That single detection has haunted SETI researchers for nearly 50 years. It's the one that got away, the signal that might have been contact, if only we could have verified it. Now we find out that an interstellar object was positioned in the right place at the right time to have transmitted that signal. If 3i Atlas was the source, it changes the entire SETI equation. It means we have been contacted, it means someone sent a probe that announced itself before arriving, and it means the great silence might not be silence at all, we might just be listening wrong. Instead of continuously monitoring the sky for radio signals, maybe we should be watching for physical probes. Objects that look natural but aren't. Interstellar space is full of comets and asteroids. We're only just developing the capability to detect objects passing through our solar system that didn't originate here. How many have we missed? How many came through before we were looking? If 3i Atlas is artificial, it might not be the first. It might just be the first one we noticed. Let's talk about the questions nobody wants to ask out loud. If 3i Atlas is a probe, who sent it? We have no way to know. The object's trajectory traces back to a region of space containing thousands of stars. Without more data, we can't narrow it down. When was it launched? Given its speed and distance traveled, it's been in transit for at least several 100,000 years, possibly much longer. The civilization that built it might not even exist anymore. What is its mission? If it's purely observational, that's relatively benign. Studying our solar system, maybe monitoring Earth for signs of intelligent life. But if it has other purposes, if it's meant to do something rather than just observe, we have no idea what that might be. The remote viewers who described extraction points and special access were touching on this. What if it's not just watching? What if it's supposed to collect something? That sounds paranoid. It probably is paranoid. But when you're dealing with technology from an unknown source with unknown capabilities and unknown intent, paranoia isn't entirely unreasonable. Another uncomfortable question, why now? If probes have been passing through our solar system for millennia, why is this one exhibiting behaviors we can detect? Why is it broadcasting if that's what it's doing? One possibility, it was always doing this, and we only just developed the technology to notice. Before radio telescopes, before space missions, before sophisticated spectroscopy, we couldn't have detected these anomalies. Another possibility, it activated recently because it detected something. Maybe Earth's radio emissions, maybe our spacecraft, maybe the simple fact that we're now looking and it knows we're watching. If it adjusts its behavior based on observation, that implies a level of autonomy and intelligence we're not prepared to deal with. Suppose 3i Atlas is a probe. Suppose we confirm this in December. Suppose we even detect coherent signals we can decode. What then? Do we respond? And if so, who gets to decide what we say? The United Nations has protocols, but they've never been tested. The Outer Space Treaty doesn't cover this scenario. No international body has the authority to speak for all of humanity. Different nations would have different priorities, different religions would have different perspectives, Different political systems would advocate for different approaches. Some would want immediate, open communication. Others would urge caution. Some might want to claim ownership or control of the contact process. It would be messy, humanity at its most fractured and disorganized, trying to present a unified face to an unknown intelligence. And there's another concern. If 3I Atlas can receive signals as well as transmit them, anything we broadcast could be heard, not just by the probe, but potentially by whatever sent it, if there's a relay system we don't know about. That's the dark forest hypothesis. You don't advertise your presence in a potentially hostile universe. You stay quiet and hidden because you don't know who's listening or what they might do with the information. Right now, Earth is noisy. We've been broadcasting radio and television signals for over a century. That sphere of electromagnetic radiation is expanding outward at the speed of light, currently over 100 light years in radius. Anyone within that sphere with the right equipment knows we're here and that we're technological. But there's a difference between passively leaking radio waves and actively transmitting a message to a probe of unknown origin. One is unavoidable. The other is a choice. There's something emotionally heavy about this whole situation that doesn't get discussed much. For most of human history, we looked at the stars and wondered, are we alone? Is there anyone else out there? It was a philosophical question, poetry and religion and late-night conversations, something you could wonder about without consequence. Now we're in a position where we might actually get an answer, and suddenly the question doesn't feel philosophical anymore. It feels urgent, real, frightening in ways we didn't anticipate. If 3I Atlas is just a comet, some people will be disappointed, others relieved. Life continues as normal. But if it's not, if we confirm artificial origin, nothing will ever be the same. Not in a dramatic Hollywood sense, just in the quiet, persistent way that fundamental truths reshape how we see the world. We'll know we're not alone. We'll know someone else reached a level of technology that allows interstellar travel. We'll know they found us even if we haven't found them, and we'll have to live with that knowledge, process it, figure out what it means for how we live, how we govern ourselves, how we think about our place in the cosmos. That's not a small thing, that's generational. That's the kind of shift that echoes through centuries. So there's a part of me that understands why space agencies might be hesitant to release information. Not because of conspiracy or cover-up, but because of responsibility. If you're the person who has to tell 8 billion people that everything just changed, you'd want to be absolutely certain first. You'd want to check and recheck. You'd want to be sure. But there's a line between caution and obstruction. And right now, it feels like we've crossed it. We're in the final stretch now. 3I Atlas is behind the sun, moving toward perihelion, invisible to every telescope on Earth. October 29th, it reaches its closest approach to the sun. Whatever is going to happen at that moment is happening now as you listen to this. Or it will happen in the next few days. We won't know immediately. JUICE won't turn its instruments toward the object until early November. Those observations will take weeks to analyze. Then, in December, when the object reappears, every observatory on the planet will be watching. The trajectory calculations will take days. Radio observations will be ongoing. Visual imaging will begin immediately. By late December, we'll have answers. Not all the answers, but enough to know which possibility we're dealing with. Normal comet with weird but natural properties. Ambiguous object requiring further study. Or something that forces us to confront the reality that we've been visited. People are going to be watching the sky in December like they haven't in years. Not just astronomers, regular people. Because something about 3I Atlas has captured imaginations in a way that most space news doesn't. Maybe it's the anomalies, maybe it's the timing, maybe it's just the human need to believe we're part of something larger. Whatever the reason, December 20th through 30th will be dates that a lot of people remember. The days when we watched an interstellar visitor and waited to see what it would tell us about the universe. So is 3I Atlas sending signals? Is it connected to the WOW signal from 1977? I don't know. Nobody knows. That's the honest answer. What I can tell you is this. The trajectory alignment is real. The chemistry is genuinely anomalous. The statistics are uncomfortable. The silence from official channels is suspicious. Something unusual is happening. Whether that something is natural but weird or artificial remains to be determined. In a few months, we'll know more. Maybe not everything, but more. Until then, we're in the waiting period. The time between question and answer, the space where speculation lives. Some of you listening to this think 3I Atlas is just a comet. You're looking at the anomalies and seeing natural phenomena we don't fully understand yet. That's reasonable. That might be right. Some of you think it's something else. You're seeing patterns that suggest design, the perfect trajectory, the wow signal connection, the impossible chemistry. That's also reasonable. That might also be right. Both positions are scientifically defensible right now. We're in the zone where the evidence points multiple directions, and we won't know which interpretation is correct until more data comes in. That's not frustrating, that's exciting. We're living through a moment of genuine scientific uncertainty about something that matters. How often does that happen? How often do we get to watch in real time as humanity grapples with a mystery this profound? So keep watching, keep reading, keep asking questions. And in December, when 3I Atlas emerges from behind the sun, pay attention. Because whatever we learn, whatever we discover, it's going to tell us something important about the universe we live in. Either we'll confirm that comets can be way weirder than we thought, which is valuable knowledge. Or we'll confirm that someone else is out there, that we've been visited, that the wow signal was exactly what it looked like. A message. Hello, we see you, we're coming.